I'm here today because I was part of the core team working on the National Needs Assessment with Andrew and the other organisations that you heard about earlier on. So I'd just like to start to talk about, we're at Ecobuild, so I think one of the things that would be fitting to talk about is housing and the challenges there are of housing, and some of the opportunities that we heard about in Andrew's talk about technology might help solve some of those challenges. So one of the key findings from our study that Andrew alluded to was the need for a strategic connected approach with greater use of technology and the infrastructure and our homes and workplaces provide some of the greatest opportunities within infrastructure to bring step changes. So again, as Andrew mentioned earlier, one of the first things is, should we be considering housing as infrastructure? And we debated this long and hard during the process for the study, and the obvious conclusion was because of the inextricable links between all of the other infrastructure sectors, transport, waste and water services, energy, that of course we should be considering it. And as Andrew also said, the greatest challenges that we have is considering the planning and policy approach for housing with the same approach for the other sectors. So we need that connected framework. So we've heard through both of the work in the NNA and also in the recent housing white paper that we've got a huge delta between the housing demand and what we're currently building. I think we quoted the demand projected for the considerable future to be 300,000 homes per year. The recent housing white paper published last month quotes 225 to 275 houses per year, so we're talking quite a large delta from what is quoted as the current rate of about 160,000 per year. So there's a real need to do something different. I'm going to read a quote now from our report because I think it presents an opportunity. So we must reduce the cost of building and operating infrastructure. Innovation and training will be key. Use of off-site manufacturing and building information modelling can reduce construction projects and provide data packages that are shared across multiple projects. So I'd just like to frame that as, is that an opportunity where technology and doing things differently can make a difference from a housing perspective, but also impact on the demand for other infrastructure sectors. I mentioned the housing white paper. I think shouldn't avoid talking about that today. So there are some key areas that are set out in the paper that identify the challenges, but also some potential solutions to those challenges. So it sets out some approaches that can help local authorities with simplified procedures, greater resource, and real direction for them to come up with plans for their local area. So real plans for their communities where homes can be built to create places to live, which obviously needs to connect with the other infrastructure sectors. So there's no point building 10,000 homes somewhere if there's no roads or energy or waste, obvious points. Also in the housing white paper, it sets out something called the Accelerated Construction Programme. So that programme sets out ways for government to partner with small to medium-sized construction firms, but also those that can really bring innovation through the use of different construction methods as a way to be a catalyst to that segment of the sector. We at KPMG did a study on this last year, so predating the white paper, and there are some clear barriers to entry for smart construction, off-site construction. The high upfront costs, the relative newness of the technology and certification, and financing being the main ones. And through our study, what we found was that the challenge in all of that is understanding the value. So what's the whole long-term, whole-life costs that could be achieved through a off-site construction project, and what are the potential savings when it's done at scale? I've also got a couple of quotes relevant to off-site construction. So Tom Ground, Chief Exec of Legal and General Homes. So Legal and General Homes have set up what's going to be the world's largest off-site construction facility in this country in Leeds, and he has stated that off-site manufacture of residential housing is the key to addressing the UK's housing crisis. It means we can build homes quicker, cheaper and better whilst achieving greater certainty over costs, and that certainty over costs linking to the finance and the policy is really important. So as well as L&G's factory, we've got major construction firms like Langer putting a lot of investment into the area with their design for manufacturing and assembly. And as also part of the housing white paper, there are real initiatives from government setting targets on their departments to release land at large scales for housing development. So I'm working with one of the largest landowners within government at the moment, who currently own about 2% of the UK's land mass that they can not afford to maintain, doesn't necessarily meet their needs. So we're trying to help them make better decisions in terms of managing that infrastructure that gets their outputs delivered in the most cost-effective way, but also releases land as part of the government targets. That provides some certainty, some source of land. Again, as been mentioned earlier, we've had some real good policy decisions and decisions made in terms of infrastructure investment with HS2 and Heathrow, Hinckley, some strategic land corridors like Oxford and Cambridge. So we've got some certainty now in the infrastructure kind of world. So I guess to kick the discussion off, I'd just like to ask the audience whether or not we feel that have we got an impetus now? Have we got a starting point to really make a difference to get off-site construction really surging ahead and actually homes being built?